We'll begin with Melbourne. Joey, straight sets finals exit last year. I know we shouldn't read too much into pre-season games, but they looked fast, they looked sharp. Their back six is in order, and also that Max Gawn, Brodie Grundy combination, well, that's a serious concern for opposition teams. What do you think of the D's heading into the year ahead? Yeah,
look, I think it's a bounce-back year for Melbourne. I think, no doubt, so I think we know the cracks started to appear midway through last year, and a lot of it had to do with their predictability, with their ball movement. I think teams worked them out. They were a bit too safe, particularly coming out of defence and going inside 50. The rest of their game still held up pretty well. Still a terrific midfield contest team. Their defence, led by May and Lever, we know is elite. And the only thing they need to do is work on their ball movement. They were 18th going through the corridor last year, through the middle of the ground. From what we've seen in the pre-season, they've addressed that. They're going to take the game on more. They're now attacking the top of the square instead of going to the pocket, into the forward line. For me, that was their only issue. They've worked on that all summer, and there's no reason why the D's can't win it this year.
Is there any concern, and the only small concern that I do have, Joey, is the key forward aspect for Melbourne. Now, defensively, they'll hold up. Their midfield's probably the best, if not in the top two in the competition. It just seems the game is going towards the key forward. So Brown, McDonald, I just can't see that combination getting to 80 goals for the year. And when you look at what Geelong did last year, Cameron and Hawkins 132, and where the competition's going with your two keys up front, that's the only issue that I do have with Melbourne, with their push forward.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I think you can do it in different ways, and their ball movement will dictate that. Remember, Bailey Fritsch is a 50-plus goal kicker. Cozzy Pickett's kicked 40-plus the last 2 years. If Petrarca spends a bit more time down there, he can get 20 to 30 goals. Max Gawn, they'll share the load. I'm not worried about their forward line. I think that they've got the right mix, the right combination, and I don't see any holes in their game this year.
I think they'll expose some younger talent, particularly early in the year, because we've seen the same block of 25 players for probably 3 years in a row now, and they've had great success and stability. You'll see more of Cade Chandler. I think Cozzy Pickett, at the end of this season, could be the best centre-forward player in the competition. He's had that sort of pre-season. He's just got to find a way to get himself more opportunities in at centre bounces now. Should be a spark factor. I think Tom Sparrow is someone that can go next level with his football. He's been on the edge, ready to have that quantum leap. My only reservation, I'm going to tip them to be premiers, but my only reservation is they've had a brutal pre-season from the moment they've come back. Can you hold and maintain the rage right through to the end of September? I've got no doubt they'll be top of the table at the bye round. But that was the same as last year. So can they finish the year off the way they started?
How difficult is it going to make it for opposition teams with this Max Gawn, Brodie Grundy combination? Because not just what they bring, but what it allows Melbourne to do in terms of their other players.
Getting a glimpse of it last weekend, I think that was the structure of Gawn going back to support defence, Grundy coming up then for that quick kick out of defence if required, and then the rotation of that. It makes it extremely difficult to match up on. I think it allows Max Gawn in particular to play to his real strengths, which are supporting that, going to the wing, floating across, taking those marks to then really get their ball movement going in a positive way.
And that's around the ground, but no doubt going inside 50, it straightens them up to attack the top of the square. So those guys there are the ones to bring it to ground, because you're right, Ben Brown and Tom McDonald aren't really those big beasts that are going to compete in the air. But one of those tools will. The smalls will know to get front and square, and if they don't get an opportunity to score off it, they're going to apply pressure and lock it in their front half and make it awfully difficult for the opposition.
And we talk so much about Grundy, but then what about Lachie Hunter as well? So only costs the D's a future third-round pick. Is the D's midfield perhaps the most deep and diversified in the competition?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're certainly, I think, the most talented. They can spark a score at any stage. And given ruck dominance this year, heading to Oliver and Petrarca and these guys, and I think Sparrow will have a big year, Pickett in there as we touched on, they can score at any moment. You go back to a centre bounce and you're nervous against the D's. We all saw what happened in the grand final. You feel like that's going to happen every week. I think they've got the best leadership in the competition. And Max Gawn, the way he drives the standards at the footy club, and then he's prepared to take a back seat in-game to allow Brodie to go into the ruck and have his time. It was Jackson years gone by, the last couple of seasons. So I love their leadership. I think it's hard and fast. It's an honest brand of football. They're going to bludgeon teams into submission, I think, particularly early in the year.
I think their wings are critical, just on the Hunter point as well. I think in the game, the wingman plays such an important role these days. They've got two guys that run a truckload of miles in a game. They support defence in a really positive way, but then can get involved in attack as well, both of them. So they're accumulators. You know, in the practice game, Lachie had 26 and Ed had 22. You know, so all of a sudden they're going to get 45 to 50 possessions on the wing, good ball movement, and start the chain.
And don't forget, this is anchored by the best key defender in the game, in Stephen May. He sets up everything, Stephen May. He's still at the peak of his powers, and he'll be the driving force in this premiership tilt.
They really missed Christian Salem healthy and in full form last year. He was not himself in the back half of last year. I know he missed the first half. He's out with that thyroid issue at the moment. So when we see him, I think he's critical to their ball movement.
Geez, they got such depth, don't they? A list primed to win more premierships over the next few years. So you've got them premiers this year.
They're mine.
They're beating Geelong.
They're beating all of them.
Yeah.
They're beating all of
We
them.
got Geelong as the main threat to Melbourne.
Well, there's a few. I think it's pretty tight at the top, but these guys, I think, will make a statement. They'll try again to get to 10-0, and I think they'll attack the back half of the year different to last. I think they'll rest a few. They'll manage their team and their squad a little bit better. So, Premier for me.
I'm on the same page. Team to beat for me.
I'm top 4, and then I think there's 2 or 3 that they'll challenge for the premiership this year.